that last night because it eats up almost all of that. Those two departments, the fire and police, is the general fund budget. And that is it's not 1/3, but it is a third, one of the three budgets that we work with. The second biggest budget is, or it might probably be bigger, Charles, is the enterprise fund. So the enterprise fund is our water, sewer, and sanitation, and need to look at it in the same way. You can't mix, you shouldn't mix, or if you get caught doing the wrong things, you'll wind up like some sister cities have. You don't mix things like drug seizure fund with general fund monies and things like that, money in, money out. There are ways to do that legally, gap loans and that kind of thing with the enterprise fund, and some cities out there live totally off the enterprise fund. Nothing illegal about that, but you've got to pay that money back if you borrow it from that fund. In other words, you've got government type activities, which is the general fund, and you've got business type activities where the ratepayers are that are paying for utilities, and you kind of balance those two out. And the third one we have in Brandon is the amphitheater, which is what we call around here the 2% fund, and we can't mix those monies with either of the other two. So we operate in a life of three budgets, not unlike some cities that own their own gas systems. Some cities own their own electric. You'd really be surprised when you get around the state of Mississippi. Here, in recent memory, just 3 years ago, I believe it was Flora sold their gas business to a gas company. So you get into some quirky things sometimes you get around the state. But those are our three budgets that we live by. So I'd like to just offer a brief word of prayer and get us started, and appreciate all y'all being here. So if you would bow and pray with me. Father God, thank you for allowing us to come together safely tonight. We know there are a lot of people that we would also like here. We would ask that you protect them and guide them in their ways the rest of today. Would like to offer and ask that you please put your hands on these employees and these board members to protect them from the world, to protect them from the harms that we all face every day, to lift them up, keep them healthy and their families, and guide them and help them help us be better stewards of the taxpayer money as we go forward working in Brandon, Mississippi. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so I think these two gentlemen that you have here, Mr. Dodd and Mr. Smith, as I like to say, I think they drew straws to see which one. Hang on, I'll come up there and take care of that. Hang on. All right, we got a little technical difficulty. I'm going to take care of something. Hang on. Well, board, these screens have an on-off button on the bottom right. If you bump it wrong or hit it wrong, sometimes you will feel the power of that. There you go. Okay, there you go. So bottom right is a power button right underneath that little blue light. And just for your city clerk, y'all like looking at those screens and keeping up? Okay. We tried to get TVs in the room so anybody in the room could see them in the back until we get further along and up here on top so that they show up and make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to dim the lights so that we can all see the TVs a little bit better. I think y'all drew straws. Who's going first? Who's on first? You're on first. Come on.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, board. I'm going to try and keep this pretty short and sweet. The proposed community development budget is really pretty similar to last year's. And I'll just go through really just three items. The professional services item, which is $600. Sure. All right, the only change on this was the iWork software renewal. It's our subscription to the iWork software. They went up on our dues from 7539 to 9189. So that's the change on that item. If you go to, any questions on that one? If you go to 729, I'm actually going to remove that one. That was for a new computer. I spoke with IT today, and actually we're going to utilize one of the donated computers. So we're going to make do with what we have. So I'm going to remove that item. And then if you turn to 740 vehicles, we're requesting $10,000 for that. We are in desperate need of at least one, hopefully 2 trucks. I'm not sure how many we can get with the 10, but I'm certain we'll get one. I'm hopeful to get 2. We have 4 trucks in our fleet. They're all 2007 Ford F-150s. There's one that's got over 200,000 miles on it, and it's pretty much at the end of its useful life for the community development department. It's certainly a truck that can be useful for another department. And if we were able to get a new truck, that one could get transferred over to Public Works or Parks for one of them to use for work trucks. So. That's really all my significant changes. Correct. Yes. I didn't, but yes. Correct. Not a brand new. It'll be used, new to us. Any questions? All right.
This does include, just looking at the breakdown we had, that email, the adding of the code enforcement officer, right?
There are a couple small items in my 600 series that would account for an additional employee. If we don't get an additional employee, then I can remove a little small amount of money from the 600 series.
No, I'm just asking, so we are budgeting for an employee. Because we said we needed another code enforcement officer.
We'll talk about personnel and things like that in executive session, our next board meeting.
Any other questions? All right, we'll turn it over to Charles.
Yeah, I got a little hung up there. Good evening. Liz, why don't we start with the library budget? Yeah, we're ready to go. Library budget is largely the same except for 637, repair and maintenance, other improvements. There is an increase there.
There's a big increase for the pressure washing in 600.
Yes. Yes, you are correct. We have not pressure washed in quite a while. Liz has that pulled up right now, and that's that $3,000. Yes, yes. That is a contracted price. The next item where we have an increase is in 637, repair and maintenance, other improvements. These are items that have been identified. We've been trying to peddle some of them along for quite a while, but it's getting to a point where it's difficult to manage, especially on the HVAC controls portion of it. Any questions on that item?
What is replacement equipment area or replace equipment
That is part of the cooler area up on the roof, if I remember right. All of those repairs, other than just a bit of the lighting and some general repairs, are HVAC and controls. And there's some equipment related to that on the roof. Any other questions on the library? If not, we'll move on to sanitation. Liz? If we're done with the library, we'll move on to sanitation. We ready? Okay. There is a small change in sanitation, and that's at 603 in the sanitation contract. We did have a small increase there, and that's accounted for in the budget. Are there any questions related to sanitation? If not, we'll move on to street department. We ready, Liz? All right. Street department is for the most part very similar to where it was last year until you get down into 703, and that is the expenditure for the MPO projects. From the $1,881,276, the match for the city is $887,138. And that is part of the 2% fund expenditure. You'll also see an increase down at the bottom under 850 for the debt service on the principal and interest. And that's associated with our asphalt project. Are there any questions for the street department? If not, we'll move on to water administration. Under water administration, it is generally similar to where it was last year. There is a decrease, approximately $74,000. We had the renovation of the administrative offices last year, so we do not have that cost in this year. Other than that, it is generally similar to what it was last year. Are there any questions related to water administration? If they're not, we'll move on to the water department. We ready, Liz? Okay. There are a handful of changes in supplies and expenses. They result in a slight increase. Most of those are just changes relative to what we've seen in our expenditures the last couple of years. Under other services and charges, there is an increase there. The bulk of that increase is under 637 R&M other improvements. And that's related to our expenditures the last 2 years and also forecasting what we anticipate doing this year in terms of repair and maintenance. Under capital expenditures, there is a drop because downtown revitalization project moved over to construction in progress, but you will see an add in improvements other than buildings. That cost is in renovations for the wells. There are 3 of those listed under 720. What we're looking at right now, I guess, is going with just the one well for this year. Okay, so that's actually going to be a drop from last year. Then under 730, machinery and equipment.
Just a minute, the well upgrade, is that what you're talking about, taking one down, refurbishing it?
Same thing that we did at Overby. Yep.
The idea is when the Cane Circle tank is raised 40 feet to match the elevation of the new burning well, at that time, since construction's already going on there, go ahead and take that well down and rehab it and try to upsize it as well, do the same thing we did at Overby. You won't know that until you close the well and pull it and run a camera down there to see what the casing looks like. But you just don't know, but I feel like it's going to be just as easy to do as Overby, which would be a significant improvement on that side of town as well.
Mm-hmm. And that well's been in decline. We've got a recommendation from our pump test this year to look at rehabbing that well.
Just a sidebar, folks, the Department of Health, due to the pandemic, is unable to come out and test systems. They handpicked a few systems around the state that they thought were more problematic. Charles, you correct me if I'm wrong. And Brandon did not fall into the category of one that close. So technically, we're still at 97% of our capacity until they come test us. So, we want those towers to be in operation, new water towers, and these 2 wells to be rehabbed before they come test us next year. Charles,
correct.
You sure? Okay.
Yes.
You and Greg had those conversations?
Yes.
Okay.
And to make a point to that, that is really a thumbs up to our water operators and people that take care of our system. They're not going to skip your inspection unless they're confident that your system's in good shape. So, moving down to 730, machinery and equipment. We've got an equipment trailer and a vacuum excavator and valve exerciser. What the vacuum excavator and valve exerciser is for is a valve maintenance program. That is a piece of equipment so that when you pull up to a valve, you can actually clean that valve body out and exercise that valve. That is a badly needed program. It's something that we need to be considerably more aggressive about, and that's what that piece of equipment will allow us to do. Liz, if you'll move to 740 vehicles. We've got two listed. We've got a F-450 crew cab service body size truck and then a half-ton crew cab truck. Last couple of years, we have purchased a couple of trucks, but we've also used some of our budget money to take advantage of trucks available in surplus. We've done that 2 years in a row. If you'll remember, we got a couple of half-ton trucks and a dump truck this past year. But we'll budget for that, and then we'll see what surplus has and move accordingly. Are there any questions related to the water department budget? Not, we'll move on to sewer. You ready? Okay. Very few changes in sewer. We are largely where we were. Some minor adjustments just based on expenditures from the past couple of years. A few of those have gone down just a bit. Probably one of the biggest changes is under capital expenditures, 729 machinery and equipment. Is that not showing the tractor? Or did I give you the wrong one? 730. I apologize. Wrong code. That's a utility cab tractor and a bush hog. We need to put more effort into our sewer easements, maintaining those, staying on top of that. We have one cab tractor. We'd like to get another one of those, and a bush hog to go with it. Are there any questions related to the sewer department budget? If not, Liz, you want to move to construction in progress, CIP? All right. So we got a couple of projects. Of course, our water tank project is ongoing. That will wrap up this January of 2021. We have the water line project associated with those two tanks that is about to advertise for bid. And then we have the downtown project that is ongoing right now. Are there any questions related to construction in progress?
Is that water line project going to be on the agenda Monday?
We have not bid it yet. We've already got permission to advertise.
That's what I said. Is it going to be on the agenda for action Monday?
I'll have to check with Angela. I'm not sure if we have any action to take to advertise it. I thought we'd already covered that. If not, we can do that.
All right.
I may be wrong, but I thought we'd already asked for permission to advertise. Okay. If not, I'll get Amy in. an agenda item on that in the morning. Thank you. I want to move to debt service. There are no budgeted changes to debt service. Essentially, we're where we were forecasted to be last year. So there are not any changes to that from an item-to-item standpoint. Are there any questions related to the debt service budget? That's it, except for the cemetery budget, and there were no changes on the cemetery budget. So, any questions at all?
Talking about the cemetery, I know last year Parks and Rec took over some of that.
They are doing the cutting and landscape maintenance for the cemetery.
What are y'all responsible for?
We've got some spraying related to those. There it is, right there. And we do budget for some tree trimming and removal. Yes.
Pardon? Not now.
Hey, Mayor, how will the new West Rankin plant affect us budget-wise? Or will it be strictly tax-free? That's a great question.
So the question was, will the West Rankin Utility Authority that we're a member of, when the plant comes online, will it affect our rates? We've already adjusted our rates. We might be as much as a nickel or 8 cents off from where they need to be, but it should be really no impact. And that is billed by the thousand, just like the water. I mean, it's the same side, water in, water out. So we've already adjusted our rate, so it shouldn't shock our system at all. Everybody on our system should be prepared for it. So the timing of that, it is possible that by December it comes online. Even by November, they are 4 to 5 months ahead of schedule. Some of the board members are ready to pull the trigger on it right now. Others would rather wait till January. So that's kind of where we are right now. So there's a lot going to be going on with that. You got that number? No, that's fine. If y'all can look at your screens, you see a need cuts to have above beginning cash and reserve fund balance. So we're still in the red, still in the motions of trimming, cutting and adding, manipulating the budget. That's what I was looking at earlier with the calendar board. In the month of August, there are 3 Mondays. We're already going to publish on the 31st, which is the last Monday of the month. Public hearing, excuse me, and then publish on the 8th, the first meeting. I heard you. Okay, so I'm looking in the month of August. We have 2 regularly scheduled board meetings. We have Monday night, the 3rd, and the 17th. So we have the month of August to pull, push, talk about things we want to add, that kind of thing. So we're ahead of the curve on trying to be, we're not in a hurry. So we're a month out. So kind of leisurely taking a look at this. There are other factors. It's a great question about the wastewater utility plant. The state of Mississippi is pushed out to municipalities and local government counties too on the COVID expenses or lost revenue. It looks like, isn't it DFA, Angela? DFA. Yeah, so we'll be making application to DFA between the 2nd of August and the 15th. So if those funds are received back by the city in this FY, they would factor in there, and they could change that number too, to make it, we'll be made whole for a lot of the losses we've experienced. So that's going on the revenue side, that's going to sway this number a little bit too. So we'll look at it, but that's the number you're looking at, about 2.5 million. Again, we have the amphitheater account and some Parks and Rec stuff to go over Tuesday night after our board meeting. And then we'll be down to fine tuning with department heads one at a time where to find another $2 million in our budget to kind of keep us back where we were. Now, I know it's somewhat passé to talk about. I just want to remind you though, part of the reason why we got a 2.09%, 1 point interest rate on a $4 million street bond is because of our bond rating. That is the value of maintaining a good, clean budget. Banks recognize it. Moody's Investment recognizes it. S&P recognizes it. So it is imperative that we keep our audits clean and our books clean, and they are. They're cleaner than they've ever been. I told you that 3 years ago. We finally cleaned up everything 4 years ago. We're where we need to be, especially going into next year and paying off all the things we're going to pay off. So we're sitting in a very good place, and when this pandemic hit, it really didn't affect our bottom line a whole lot. I've shown you those tax numbers, and I'll try to make some new graphs for that for Monday night for you when we have the board meeting to demonstrate that. So the wild swings that you've seen in cities like Hattiesburg or Oxford or Starkville or Natchez or Vicksburg, they're not happening here. We have not furloughed one employee, not one, and don't intend to. We'll fight it to the end. And I think that's, I'm very pleased with that. I mean, we've had to bite the bullet and do a lot of things we didn't want to do, but we haven't caused an employee not to get a paycheck yet. And I think that shows a disciplined employer. So I would ask you just to help us and be positive and pray and keep on keeping on. So we're doing the right things in the right orders. And that's been evidenced by those bank bids, and we signed the documents on those at 12:30 tomorrow to finalize all that, get going. It looks like the milling will start next week, weather dependent. Charles is working on that, and we're ready to go. We've got a plan of what to do with the milling, whether it rains or not. So it's on order, and it's time to get with business. Got anything else you want to add, Charles? You tired? You look fatigued. You must have had a long week last week. Other than that, are we done, Miss Liz, for the night? Angela, you got anything you want to add?
Who's doing the Parks and Rec?
Me? I'm not prepared yet. You got some other thoughts? I've sat down twice with them, and we've got some things, a couple of things that, for instance, since we're just jibber-jabbering right now, since we are in a work session, I'll give you the prelude to it. We have 4 and 5 ball out there, for those of you that are familiar with Shallow Park. The asphalt between all those probably played out 10 years ago. We didn't make an improvement in that asphalt surface. Now you're walking on a lot of aggregate, a lot of rock. That is one thing I agree with them that we probably need to do is put an inch of asphalt down to clean that area up. We renovated everything in the Champ Quad and in the old small ball area and built new concession stands everywhere. But that's the only area we didn't touch was between those 9 fields, 5 ball and 4 ball. And I think and that was part of the problem, folks, is you had a wonderful park that is now 32 years old. that for 20 some odd years you never spent a penny on. You never maintained it going along, just like your car. You never put a new set of tires on it. So I think it behooves us to do things like putting that asphalt down if we can afford to do so, just to keep, that's one element of the park you won't have to address again. Just do a little along over time and maintain your facilities. We're going to have to put a roof on this building. We'll do admin Tuesday night, and Liz is tired of the sound of rain in her office every time it rains, and we have 2 trash cans in there that catch the water that comes down through the ceiling. We were going to take a water fountain and cut the top out of a bottle so we could catch the rainwater, and anyway, she's got her own drinking water right there in her office. So. But it is. I mean, last week I personally dumped probably 5 gallons out of that thing, and Jody has done a great job for us. I believe he's got a vendor that will replace this roof, commercial roof, and warranty his work, doing a third. So for somewhere between $70,000 and $90,000, we think we can do it that end of the building, then the middle, and this end, and same vendor do it. And I don't know how to navigate that over fiscal years, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure out a way to do it. Our problem is we had a hailstorm that came through several years ago. You remember that? It tore still I think a few pine trees are dying because of it. There was damage on the roof, damaged police cars, all this kind of stuff. So at that time, someone came along. We found someone that could do that repair, and they coated that roof with a substance that I am not familiar with. Now, Charles, I'm going to ask you to get Jody and get that in writing, whatever that substance is. Jody's done a lot of research on this and found it. It's been patched, and coated, trying to stop that leak. So we finally figure out, Jody does, he finally found someone that's got some knowledge about it. The substance that was put on the roof to patch it, nothing else will stick to it. It might stick short term, but by the time the sun hits it and it moves a little bit, then it's loose again. So it's been patched 3 or 4 times, recoated, but it doesn't stop the water from coming down. So we got a leak in the kitchen, a leak in Liz's office, a leak in the middle of the room, and one out in the hallway. And it just depends on which way the wind's blowing as to how much comes in the holes. And, then it makes its way down to the senior center, and then you got water on the floor, not good. So just got to, this is another thing. You'll pay for this building in 2026. You will pay off this building. Same thing as asphalt between 4 and 5 ball. You own a 60,000 square foot city hall. I lost that argument several years ago, saying what city needs a 60,000 square foot city hall. I lost that argument. I'm willing. And now I'm trying to figure out ways to help pay for it. But at the same time, you got to maintain your stuff, or your stuff gets away from you. Same with streets, same with sewer lines, same with everything else. It's a big maintenance thing, but it's yours. And we need to put a roof on this building. All right. That help you any about parks to begin that conversation? So we have had those conversations. Jody, I was speaking to him today about, we thought the splash pad, which again is one of the things, folks, we pay off next year. Believe it or not, it's been that long. We finally pay it off next year. Ramey kept coming at me with, it's the kiss of death. You're going to have to gut the whole thing and throw it out. Well, so I got Jody and a couple other guys to go look at it, and they're working on it, and they say, no, I don't think it's that bad. I think we're going to be able to make minor repairs and keep on keeping on with it just the way it is. So just getting other eyes on it and other opinions with people that have more experience. And we'll get a little upgrade on the splash pad, and Ramey did a great job, turned it around the last 2 years. It's made more revenue in the last 2 years than it probably made in the prior 6 or 7. Just its function and how you work it. So yes, we're having those conversations. Okay. All right. Without any further ado, any questions? Monica, Chris, Dwight, any questions? Talia, Lou? I guarantee you. Look, let me. Before I say we're adjourned. So we come up with this big long set of streets on a list, 93 streets that we're going to put out for bid. And all of a sudden, I get the call on a Friday afternoon, I think an hour after Charles got the call, to say, you're way out of the money here. It's just not going to work. And I don't know how long it took me to come back down to earth, or Charles, but a lot of that was what's called the dig outs, or you're doing base repairs. Well, these folks split up into two groups, had some folks from the water side come over to the street side, and they've been going around the city for 3 solid weeks, 2 crews doing dig outs. So now I'm getting calls from residents going, hey, with pictures going, hey, is this the street fix y'all were talking about? And I have to go through and explain, no, that's a dig out that's going to get milled down and the whole street's going to get resurfaced. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of you were getting the same questions, you know? And I say, no, that's preliminary work that our folks are doing. Our folks are building that road out here in front with Trustmark, and they're on track. I got an email, they're on track, think they're going to be in that building come November, before Thanksgiving. That's what they say. Got to believe what they say. Courthouse is open. We were in the courthouse last week. Yeah, he came running out of there with plastic, going, what in the world are you doing in here with plastic garbage bags? Anyway, yes, it's open. The streets aren't completely done like we like, but and if you go down on Dining Street, you'll see the streets are closed, and that progress has begun, and I'll get some pictures of that and start throwing that out as well. So a lot going on. So please, these folks, you wouldn't be doing that street program, that 2020 street overlay program, without them. They got it in the money for you. I'm just telling you.
They have done a tremendous job. Absolutely.
They got it in the money. So we owe 'em